And here now to discuss more of what we can expect from TikTok's CEO today is Lindsay Gorman, a senior fellow for emerging technologies at the German Marshall Fund's Alliance for Securing Democracy. She was also a senior policy advisor for the technology strategy in the Biden White House. Lindsay, welcome to Morning Rush. Thank you so much for being here. Given that TikTok is facing a ban in the U.S., I mean, half the country uses it, it's estimated. How contentious could this hearing get?
I think it could get quite contentious. And the reason is that there's somewhat of a disconnect between what viewers and users of TikTok feel about the platform. There are a lot of strong feelings and passions for the creators that are using TikTok on a day-to-day basis. As the segment mentioned, 90 minutes a day is certainly no small amount of time. But there's a tension between that and what lawmakers have been really concerned about for the better part of the last year, that this isn't necessarily just a benign social media platform, but in fact has authoritarian ties. So this is really a make or break moment for TikTok and its very future in the US. These concerns are not new, but have really reached somewhat of a fever pitch over the last week. And that's why I think we're seeing not a senior executive at TikTok come testify, but the CEO himself.
And as Lindsay referred, 150 million people use TikTok in the U.S. How will Shouzi Chu use the app's popularity to convince lawmakers not to ban the app? I mean, is that enough to say everybody's using it, so don't get rid of it?
I think it's actually one of his strongest arguments. He's definitely going to try to downplay ties to China, but I don't know that that's really going to ring true to a lot of lawmakers, and it risks coming across as kind of naive. Where I think Shou has a much stronger case is in TikTok's popularity. This is a significant segment of the U.S. population that uses the platform, and I think we'll see him really double down into some of the more traditional political tropes that companies use when going before Congress, namely talking about a ban's potential impact on the U.S. economy, the number of small businesses that use TikTok, how it's supported individuals making career transitions throughout the pandemic. And I think that's really the strongest case for not banning TikTok, that this is part of American life. And it's why efforts that would potentially sell TikTok to a company that's not based in China, but that is based in the US or another democratic country might be more politically palatable than an outright ban.
And TikTok says it's spent close to $1.5 billion on security efforts for U.S. user data, and it's close to 1,500 people working on that effort. How does that investment show TikTok data is secure? Is there any proof that we have that people's data is safe?
Look, TikTok is definitely going to enormous lengths in order to show and demonstrate to concerned lawmakers that Americans' data is safe. However, I would say that, and I think many of the lawmakers would agree, that ultimately these kinds of oversight mechanisms are going to fall short for one simple reason, and that's that in a world defined by software, even if you can know at one moment in time that the software involved is not preferentially showing pro-Chinese Communist Party content or is not exfiltrating data to Chinese Communist Party operatives, you don't have that guarantee at the next moment in time, a second, a week, a month later. As Senator Warner has said in the past, these systems are one software update away from becoming a security vulnerability. And so that's why I think ultimately, no matter how much resources get put into what TikTok is calling this Project Texas to oversee Americans' data and make sure that it's not going to China, ultimately, if the Chinese Communist Party demands it at a given moment, that switch can be flipped.
And to that point, there is a real concern because TikTok has already admitted it accessed user data from journalists to track down where they got their sources and what they were saying about the platform. So what does that admission do to TikTok's claim that user data is safe? I mean, that is really concerning, especially for those who are promised that their sources will be kept safe.
Absolutely. And I think that was the biggest own goal that TikTok has made in the course of this last year. At the same time as its executives were appearing before Congress to profess that user data was safe, just weeks later, it came out that TikTok was actually spying on a journalist that was covering the company, something that in the United States, we obviously take freedom of the press really, really seriously. So that was an extremely damning revelation, I think, for TikTok that ended up setting it back incredibly, and I think is emblematic of the exact concern that we're worried about, that even if in the day-to-day operations nothing nefarious is going on, in a moment of crisis, such as in the case of the Forbes journalist, when TikTok suspected that there was a leak of confidential information to the press, in those moments of crisis, that's when we'll see the kind of nefarious activity and those lines being crossed. In particular, it could also mean in a tense geopolitical moment for the United States and China, as we've had many in the previous weeks and surely many more to come. Those are sort of the critical moments when all these oversight structures and professions could end up falling short and these boundaries could be violated, as we saw with the case of the journalist and the spying there.
And we're almost out of time, but in 15 seconds, what are the chances we see a full ban of TikTok? What are the chances of that really happening?
I would put it at maybe 30%. I think I'm still really holding out hope that we'll be able to resolve it without banning this app entirely and doing so by a sale to a U.S. company, as there is precedent for in the past with apps such as Grindr.
All right, Lindsay Gorman, Senior Fellow for Emerging Technologies at the German Marshall Fund's Alliance for Securing Democracy. Thank you very much for your insight and your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.